Thank you very much. So we have Bob joining us today, of course, which is exciting. And I know Leah wanted to walk through a little bit of conversation before we took a look at the draft maps. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so I think I'll have her facilitate and kind of lead some of the questions or the conversation that she wants to have, and then we'll jump in with Bob. One thing to keep in mind is that by the 25th, I need to be ready to publish a map in the Herald and on our website and start publicizing those community meetings so people know where to show up and what they'll be commenting on. So just through the conversation, keep that in the forefront, and I'll let Leah take the lead, and then we'll work with Bob on whatever changes or not changes that you all decide to make.
No, and that's actually what I was going to say, Nicole. I just wanted to address up front that we do have a deadline for our draft map. And also, as I was looking at like our general meeting schedule that's already established, gang, we're halfway through this. This is our halfway point, and it's also go time. This is the part we've all been waiting for, right? So thank you so much, Bob, for getting us these maps, the draft that you have. Also, your narrative was very helpful for me. So thanks for getting this over to us. So we had a little bit of time to digest, but I also wanted to reiterate, we do have to have something that we can say, all right, this is a draft, and it's just a draft. And that's the goal. I think that perfectionism with things like this sometimes get in the way. And so I feel like we can have just a little bit. This is a draft. That's our goal. And I think we are 100% capable of it. It's been such an amicable group. And I just wanted to take a moment just to say that, because you don't always have that on commissions in city projects. So let's start with Bob. Bob, walk us through what you've sent over, and also if we can just focus on the high points where there are movement. I think that's going to help us a lot as well. Focusing on the changes that are actually demonstrated on the map and moving the discussion from there. So Bob, talk us through what changes you're suggesting.
It helps if I unmute myself. It's those little things like that. So far, the changes that I've proposed are extremely minimalistic. Looking at the various commission districts, overall, I mean, everything that you guys have is rock solid to begin with. It just needed some fine tuning. And so if we go to page number 9 of the proposal, it's very simple up in the 1st and 2nd district of moving the precinct Everett 18 and Everett 98 out of the 2nd district into the 1st district, which of course also coincides with that neighborhood line there of which neighborhood is that? I think it's Bayside. The next change is the movement of Everett 24 from the 3rd director district. I'm sorry, the 3rd director district growing into the 2nd district. That one's always been, well, in your existing boundaries, that's the most odd looking boundary line, is where the 2020 boundary went along the creek there. And it has that funny little panhandle shape at the bottom. This one I felt was a no-brainer to move over, splitting that neighborhood a little bit, but gets us the numbers that we wanted over there. The next predominant change was the movement of Everett 37 into the 2nd from the 5th district. And so that also seems to help out with the overall compactness as well a little bit in that. The final change was the movement of Everett 40 from the 4th director district into the 5th director district. That leaves us with deviations of the highest deviation being a negative 628 in the 2nd district, with the next highest being a positive 582 in the 1st director district. That in percentages is less than 3%. The two highest numbers are over 2.5%. The next one is just a little bit over 2%, and the remaining are just a tick over 1%. So I believe that falls in with the numbers that you had as parameters for the 2020 work. And yeah, and then the remaining insets are just detailed looks at those proposed changes. I also outlined in the email the percentages of the non-white in those between all of these, the old the commission districts and the new commission districts. I don't really see much in the way of a change there. So we're not really changing any of the makeup of any of these director districts, commissioner districts. We're still following the same basic flavor as what we had previously in our racial makeup. That's it in a nutshell quickly. Questions, comments?
Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate that overview and talking through the major changes. And so does anyone have, especially focusing on the major changes, understanding that our goal is to get a draft map accomplished? What are thoughts? Go ahead, Scott. Uh-oh, Scott, I think you muted yourself.
Sure enough, and I even picked the wrong raise hand, didn't I? Thank you. So yeah, thanks, Bob. Great, good map. I followed the districting pretty closely and 2 years ago, and I think a lot of this, based on the work before, could have been predicted. We knew that District 3 was under population already, kind of, or underweight, and that District 1 was heading that way. The only one comment I had or thought I had was in that movement between District 3 and District 5. I believe that one of the goals of the districting committee back in 2019 or 2020, whenever it was trying to keep neighborhoods together as much as they could. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but that one precinct, Everett 80, on the east side of I-5 is actually a separate neighborhood, Valley View, from the rest of that area just to its west. And the area to its west, there, precincts 34, 39, 37, 36, I think a little, maybe even a little bit north, are the Pinehurst neighborhood. So I'm wondering if there might be some virtue to us considering instead suggesting Everett 34 and 39 move into District 2, and Everett 80 and move into 5, and Everett 37 stay in 5. And that way there's all but one of the precincts of the Pinehurst neighborhood are in District 2. So trying to keep that neighborhood together as much as possible. And then Everett 80 is its own neighborhood, would obviously would still be together with itself. And also, I think another point there, by doing that, you would, I think, get districts 2 and 5 even closer to the median. It would put, I think, about 300 more people in District 2 and about 300 less or so in District, not quite that much, but about that much, maybe 280, 270 in District 5. So bringing it almost right there at the median. And I think also if I think there was something I recall in the previous districting, trying to keep some similar areas together. That southern part of precinct 37, I think is or the northern part maybe is maybe more kind of traditional older neighborhood that matches the rest of that Pinehurst neighborhood. So anyhow, just wanted to throw that out there as an idea and suggestion, because as a virtue of keeping more of Pinehurst together, and it has the virtue of bringing District 2 and District 1 both closer to the ideal population.
Okay, so first off, you had mentioned putting Everett 39 and Everett 34 out of the 5th and into the 2nd, correct?
Correct, yes.
All right, well, let me do that here on my end real
Bob,
fast.
is it possible for you to share your screen while we're doing
Sure,
this?
sure.
Exactly what I was going to ask. That would be great.
I have a whole bunch of copies, but it's so much better for me to see what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm a
What?
visual
Thank
person
you.
as well, Jocelyn. Thank you for that
Thank you.
comment.
Yes.
All right, let me share the screen over.
And Scott, thank you for that comment. Thank you.
All right, so here we go. This is looking at Everett 39 and Everett 34. You guys should now be seeing that popping in. If I add that to the 2nd district, so there, the 2nd district has now grown into that. You wanted me to take what out of the 2nd and put it into the 3rd, Scott?
So Everett 37 immediately to the east of what you just did, and Everett 80 that is also to the east of that. Down a little bit there, Bob. Everett 30 right there. Yep, there's 37.
You want me to put that into the 5th?
5th, right, along with
Okay.
Everett 80 on the east side of the I-5 there.
All right. Well, I mean, right off the bat, it's definitely going to be less compact and more weird in shape than the proposal. But let's see what these numbers get us. So I mean, yes, I mean, we're getting a really good deviation out of the 5th. Our 2nd is a bit high. You wanted this one not to go into the 3rd, correct? The Everett 24.
No, keep that there. Right. No,
Okay.
I think you did what you had to do there. My apologies. I didn't mean to.
All right. I mean, yes, I realize that the creek does split the neighborhoods here, but I felt that was a much better split than it going across the highway here.
Absolutely. Yes. I think that was a great call. And even 2 years ago, as I followed the district commission, could see that one coming.
Yeah, some things become pretty obvious. So here is the 5th district now. It's a little bit weirder in shape with this. Oh, I missed one there. Add that in there. So there you go. That's what the new numbers are. So the 5th is by far much closer, although it is a little more unique in shape. The 2nd is definitely below the, what was it, 2.6% now. So that is definitely much better. As long as you're okay with the weirdness, of course, it has zero impact on the 1st district, which is our greatest deviation. But the change on the 1st actually unsplits a neighborhood to a degree, which was, oops, get into that. I keep forgetting that you've got the reservoir water area over here in the first as well. So yeah, I mean, the new boundary goes right along here, which helps to combine that neighborhood. Let's see, I actually have the neighborhoods turned off here at the moment. I don't want that one. There we go. So yeah, this is the Bayside neighborhood, is this boundary right along here. So there's a little bit of it, the Bayside neighborhood still in this precinct down here. But you know, that's fine. If we were concerned about the fifth being so high, we could potentially consider removing some of these census blocks out of the whole of Everett 18 and splitting Everett 18 if that was to be desired. If we don't want to split precincts, we probably want to leave Everett 18 whole then at that point. So
Yep.
that was the numbers you were looking for, correct?
Correct.
Scott?
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. And just two follow-up points there. Obviously, I do recognize the odd boundary there, but would point out that whether we kept those other two precincts 34 and 39 in, they're both on the other side of the Boeing Freeway, State Route 526. So in terms of connection with the rest of District 5, you're having to go across a freeway there with only 2 points that get you across, other than Evergreen Way, which is kind of on the boundary of the district. So anyway, I do recognize the oddity of that. So, but just trying to keep as much of the neighborhoods together as possible.
Sure.
And then the other point was, I think it's unfortunate that the county auditor, when drawing precinct boundaries, didn't kind of take an opportunity to regularize or make more compact the boundary of Everett 37 and maybe exchange population there with another precinct. Again, you may know this from your map work, but yeah, I think it would have been far better had the auditor drawn a boundary about 75th Street east-west there, or the PUD right-of-way, which is a very solid boundary there just to the south of 75th, as well as the interurban trail, which would split off parts of Everett 39 that actually access entirely off of Beverly Boulevard and aren't connected to the rest of Everett 39. But the auditor did what they did. And so unless we're looking to do that, which would increase the level of complexity, I think this might be the best compromise if we wanted to try to keep Pinehurst together more, as well as get the populations closer. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Scott. Bob, before we move on or take any other feedback, Bob, can you zoom in just a bit on the area that was just changed along the 5th? Yeah, just so I can see it again with the neighborhoods. I'm trying to absorb. Thank you.
No problem. I turn on in case you want to see any of the street labels. There's a few of them turned on.
Thanks.
I mean, yeah, it's not ugly, but it is definitely a break from the compactness that you had before. So I'm not opposed to this.
Other commissioners, do you have any feedback on the changes that were just proposed?
I think that one of the challenges that this new option makes is that now we have Valley View going into a different district, as well as now Lowell is being split in half. And I think that I feel like the Lowell area has a pretty strong community. I think that what their neighborhood association is one that is fairly active. And I think, Nicole, you can check me on that if that's not accurate. So I think I think we did a good job with some of the other changes in preserving neighborhoods together, but I think that this creates a couple more problems than it solves. I think that thinking about gerrymandering, it's one of those things that, you know, you might not be able to identify it in words easily, but you know it when you see it. And this district just it's giving gerrymandering a little bit, just because part of it is that our precincts are just so weirdly shaped, and that's, you know, something that is a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, I think this creates as much of a problem as it solves. And I don't know if preserving just the Pinehurst neighborhood is then worth having to split Lowell.
Thank you for that feedback.
It
Yeah.
might be less weird if we were to include this section of the second into the fifth. Just as a, you know, because we're talking 52 people, 32 people, 11, and then no one else. So we're not really talking that much in the way of a change in people. So we wouldn't be taking a dramatic amount out of the second. Let me just show you what that looks like if we were to do that. Oh, well, it looks like we've got a couple of census blocks that actually split the precincts there. So that doesn't work as well as I was envisioning. So scrap that.
Thank you, Bob. That was exciting when it just like all turned red. Love it. Thank you. We'll go to Nicole and then Angela. I do see your hand raised, and then Scott. Go ahead, Nicole.
So to answer Simone's question,
Yes, thanks.
yes, Lowell is very active, longstanding community. And in those past documents that I'm sure some of you had the opportunity to look at from our previous commission, we did go through a district core exercise, and those cores that were identified by the previous commission as areas to try to keep intact were Northwest neighborhood, Delta neighborhood, Lowell neighborhood, the stretch of Casino Road, and Silver Lake, and then Boulevard Bluffs, Harbor View, and that kind of like waterfront space there. Felt like those were kind of like communities. And I don't think that this group needs to be wedded to that, but I think that it's important information to think about. They did go through a pretty extensive process to come up with those areas, particularly preserving Casino Road was, and Lowell. Those were two big areas that were very important to the previous commission. So I just want to point that out for just historical knowledge. Thank you,
Nicole. I appreciate that. I think one thing that would be helpful, because this is a lot of information, we're tracking a lot of different names. Can you put in the chat those specific neighborhoods that you just listed out? I think that would be helpful. Go ahead, Angela.
Yes, I thought that Scott's idea was really good, but the impact again on Lowell was, I didn't think a good idea, splitting Lowell, because it's such an active and vocal neighborhood and compact at that, as you know, Pinehurst is too. But Lowell is very, I just didn't think that was a good idea. If there's any way that we could, you know, make some of those changes that Scott suggested, but keeping as much Pinehurst together would be good.
I will let Bob mull that over. And go ahead, Scott.
Great, thanks again. So Bob, I don't know if it's possible to zoom in even further on actually Valley View, Everett 80.
Everett 80.
Which is right on the east side of I-5 there, that precinct that I had suggested there be linked to 5. Or even if there's possibility of bringing up an aerial map. But so actually this proposal would not split Lowell, it would actually split Valley View. But it would split it in a way. So the area to the right side of the precinct boundary for Everett, to the east of the eastern precinct boundary of Everett 80 is actually accessed entirely off of Lowell Larimer Road. So I think in this case, it's actually a city neighborhood boundary that was poorly drawn, the red line there that goes along Lowell Larimer Road. Because keep going to your right, Bob. So Lowell Larimer Road is is the right, thanks, is the red line on the right. That actually is contiguous with Lowell Larimer Road. And so all those 32 people or whatever it is, Bob, that live in that little area that is between the precinct boundary and the Valley View boundary, excuse me, right there, are actually have no way of accessing the rest of Valley View, sort of driving out Lowell Larimer Road and either going up all the way through Lowell, coming back down Broadway, or going all the way down to what is it, 132nd, 128th, and then coming back up the Bothell Everett Highway. So I think the boundary that's poorly drawn here in this case isn't the precinct boundary, but the neighborhood boundary. Those 32 people probably should be part of Lowell neighborhood. And I would, since they would access Valley View anyway through Lowell, probably identify more with Lowell anyway than with Valley View. Thanks.
It is also connected down here, so we could make this change without including this area into that change. And there is 1,072 people here and 1,324 in this one. So I'm just throwing that out, that we could consider something along these lines, but not. We could potentially do something along those lines as a quick change. Let's put those back. So this is still contiguous, although barely here. We pick up more people into the second district than we are removing. So the second district now is off less. So we're down at negative 1.7%, and the fifth district is now, almost perfect, having, given up some people to the second. And so it's a consideration of not having to mess with precinct Everett 37.
Thanks. I just want to say this is not a hill I die on. I just want to throw this out because I thought it kept the Pinehurst neighborhood better together, and that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. And so just to reiterate, because I think one of the things that I really like to do is make sure that I'm understanding the why behind something that someone's proposing. So Scott, just to repeat it back to you, what I hear you saying is your suggestions were based on breaking up Pinehurst a bit less and keeping it more intact. Okay. Angela, did you have another comment? I see your hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think so. I like the idea of keeping Pinehurst as intact as possible. And then of course, Lowell, I like what Bob just dropped, but no, I didn't have my hand up. I might have. Thank you. Sorry.
I don't have that kind of power in this meeting, Angela. I can't clear the hand. And I want to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to speak. Thank you for those changes, Bob. Simone, how do you feel about this kind of redraw? I think you had some good feedback on the more problems that it solved, and I appreciated those comments, especially coming from the experience of the previous commission. What do you think about these adjustments?
I think that this could work. I don't know if it necessarily works better than the original proposal, but I think that there might be some ways to add 37 into into 5, I guess, and make that just a little bit less weird
Choppy?
shaped.
Choppy?
I mean, it's just, thinking of it as like a district. If someone's traveling through, there's just that sliver of Broadway. The one thing I liked about the original option was that it actually put the rest of Broadway by putting 24 or by putting Everett 37 into 2. It actually combined that last bit of Broadway with the rest of it, which, as we were talking about other areas that, along like Casino, some of the main areas along Evergreen Way and Rucker, I think that's another area that was, it made sense to keep it together. But yeah, I think it's really the lack of compactness. And if our goal is to try and keep neighborhoods together, I think we could do a little bit of other population juggling that might still result in compactness, but keep more neighborhoods together without, ending up with super weird shapes. Well, they're all gonna be super weird shapes because Everett's a weird shaped city, but less weird.
Thank you for that. Do you have any, if you have any other suggestions? I mean, you said that there might be another way to juggle population. Do you have any specific areas in mind?
I didn't come to this meeting with any big moves in mind, so I'd have to just kind of look and see what makes sense to move around to make the populations not get too crazy. But if I think of any good moves or see anything that makes sense, I'll pop back up.
Great, thanks, Amal. Further comments? Go ahead, Angela.
Yes, okay, if we're moving on to another one, change is, I support the change from District 4, the Precinct 40, moving it as part of Cascade View and moving it to District 5 out of 4. I feel it's very appropriate to move this. It's just a small part of the Cascade View neighborhood that was taken and put into District 4. And so moving it, as Bob has it proposed, back into District 5, I think is going to make that neighborhood very happy, and a lot of residents pretty happy that we're split and taken out of that neighborhood. So I like that move right there.
I just don't like this up here. Why they crossed the highway for the precinct for those 20 some odd people.
Bob, it has to do with the school district boundary, that matches the Everett and Mukilteo school district boundary right there. That's the only reason I think. Yeah, that's why the precinct's drawn that way.
That makes sense because yeah, I worked on the Mukilteo one. Darn school districts.
Wait a minute, I just retired from a school district.
And I work with a lot of them. I love them all. They have a very hard job.
Yeah.
Any additional new proposals or feedback?
Can we zoom out so I can see the whole map?
So what I think, if there are no other, like, I'm not going to say major changes, but any additional adjustments, if I'm not hearing that and I don't see any additional hands raised, Bob, I think it would be helpful if we see, it's not too much trouble, if we see your original proposal, because I think what I'm hearing is we actually have two suggestions. We have your original proposal right now, and then we also have the adjustments as suggested by Scott. Is there a way to see, Angela, is your hand new? Do you have another comment? No, we're good. Is there a way to see the original and then what's being proposed here?
Well,
Or is
this was my original proposal, which was minimal change with the, I was trying to turn off the street labels. There we go. We're just looking at purely the numbers, minimal changes, and growing in a simplified shape. That's this proposal. And
Okay.
then Scott's was to put those two into the second and then put those two into the fifth.
Okay.
You know, if we, I don't know, Nicole or Leah, if we need a motion, I'd be happy actually to move this one to forward for public input if we want, and then see what kind of input we got and revisit that, or if it would be appropriate if the members want me to move my suggestion with the changes to get in front of the public. But if the next step is we need a motion to put something in front of the public, then happy to make that motion.
I think we need a motion to accept the map for the commission and then a motion to put it forward to the public. So I think
you
it's
want two separate motions?
One to
Sure.
accept changes and one to take the changes and move them to publish to collect input.
Okay,
And
thank
it's very
you.
clear.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you for clarifying, Nicole. So do we have a motion to move the Bob's original proposal forward?
So moved.
Thank you, Nathan. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Who is that?
Angela.
Thank you, Angela. My screen jumped. I can't see you. Further discussion on the original map as proposed moving forward?
I'm a little concerned that this solidifies it too much. So if that is the case, and I'd like to move an amendment to move Everett 80 into District 5 and move Everett 34 into District 2.
I'm unclear on my rules of order. Nicole, do I ask for a second for that amendment?
I think for amendments, we get a second and then a discussion.
And then a discussion, right? Okay. Is there a second
A vote.
for the adjustment to add 80?
Okay, since there's no, actually either no second, let it die, or I'll be
Yep.
glad to pull my
I
amendment back.
don't hear that.
Okay.
Yeah, so all in favor of the map as proposed, moving forward without amendments? Aye.
Aye.
And if we can keep our hands up so that the city staff can keep track and see clearly.
To just let us know when you have all of the, it looks like it's unanimous. Yep, everyone votes.
Okay, great.
Yes, except Scott. And he's a yes as well. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's unanimous. Thank you. And then the second motion, Nicole, is to publish. Okay, great,
Yeah, to use this map.
Yeah.
To collect
Okay.
feedback
so-
on.
great. And can I call for a motion to use this as the draft map to publish?
So moved.
Thank you, Susan.
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Can I vote?
Thanks, Bob. No.
I don't want the meeting to get too serious.
And I can't see everyone. Nicole, is it unanimous?
It is.
Okay, great. Thanks, Susan. All right, so moved. And I will be very curious. Scott, thank you for that discussion and suggestions. And I will be very curious in community meetings, what kind of topics come up to see if, like, especially those areas that would potentially be impacted if they have opinions on this draft map that relate to your comments or not. So speaking of which, are we ready to move forward, Nicole, on the agenda?
Yep. So Bob, you'll send me something beautiful I can publish. And then I'll get that into the Herald along with where our meetings are going to be held and the times and all that stuff.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate your work on this. And as the representative from District 2, I really appreciate your work. We're tricky, and we've had the ones with the movement, and my neighborhood is impacted on this map. So thank you very much for your logical flow presentation and for helping us get this done so quickly. We are at the part of the agenda to talk about the public meeting schedule. And Nicole, you also said that there were some suggestions for places to meet.
Yes. So we have August 7th, 8th, 11th, 14th, 15th, and 16th, which is 6 community meetings. And I had sent out to all of you the doodle poll, what came back so that you knew where you were slotted in. So we have, unfortunately, not a ton of hybrid options, but I do really want to make our final at-large, or whenever it is, but I want to make our at-large meeting hybrid so that anyone who can't participate remotely can come to that big final meeting, and we'll be able to provide comment. So my proposal is that we do all of the district meetings non-hybrid, and then our final at-large meeting is hybrid, either probably in the either downtown library or the transit center, depending on which one I can. If I can do the transit center, that will be my first choice, because then people can bus to it. They can come in on the computer, they can come in via phone. We'll just make it very accessible. And so I'm hoping I can do that at the transit center. If not, there's a bus that goes directly to the downtown library, and that's easy for me to coordinate. And so I'll have Jatu run through the options. I will say I am looking for a location in District 3, I believe. So if anyone has any suggestions there, you can start thinking about those, and we'll run through Jatu's recommendations, and then we'll go from there. So I'll meet.
For District 5's meeting, one of the suggestions was Silver Lake Park. And then for District 3, we were still looking for suggestions. And then District 2 at the downtown library, and then District 1 at Jackson Park, and District 4 at the Everett Public Library. If anybody has any suggestions for
Go ahead, Scott. Thank you so much for that list.
Yeah, District 3, have we looked at the fire stations that have meeting rooms? I know the neighborhood over there, View Ridge or Sears Harborview meets at the fire station there in District 3 on Glenwood.
Great
As I
idea.
say that, or Floral Hall at Forest Park. This is available.
That or what?
Floral Hall at Forest Park.
Floral Hall, Forest Park.
There, I think there's also a meeting room in the basement of the utility or the public utilities thing that we also use for the animal shelter. It's kind of hard to find, but we've met there in the past as well, which is sometimes available.
These are good suggestions.
And
Go ahead, Scott.
Under the proposed map, does the Everett Public Library actually end up at District 1, the downtown library? Is it dividing line Hewitt or Everett? I thought it was Hewitt.
That's a good question. If it's not going to be the downtown library, if it's out of the proposed district, then I will move it to Everett City Hall I'll move to council chambers.
The line is
Thank you.
Hewitt.
So
The
I,
line is-
and I don't know
I
if,
thought the line was Hewitt.
I mean, I would hope the weather would be good in August, but wonder if the parks, is that a problem if they don't have an interior space to meet, and wonder if instead of Jackson Park should be the library, or the what's the meeting room up there at Baker Heights? Could that be a possibility as well?
Yeah. You getting these, Jatu? Good.
Angela, did you have your hand up?
I did, because I was going to clarify Everett Public Library for District 4, but then they started talking about the Everett Public Library downtown, so it's okay. I get it. Evergreen.
Okay,
All right,
Thank
thank you.
thanks.
I think indoors is best, but I also, with the reported rise in people getting sick right now, I am also trying to kind of balance large indoor spaces with covered outdoor spaces. And then also the remote option. So the one really great thing about last year is we were able to do all of them online. And I honestly think that that's going to bring a higher percentage of participation than the in-person options. I think we had 2 meetings last year where no one came to, and then I think we had one where like 20 came. And then the other ones were kind of scattered anywhere between 6 to 14 community commenters. And so I just want you all to know that we have to have them, and they have to have an in-person aspect of it. And I'm so sorry if no one comes to the meetings and you all show up, but we have to do it. And it's if one person comes, it's worth it, because it is important to give people an opportunity to provide comment. But I would do it differently if it were up to me, but it's not. So don't be mad at me.
And that was actually going to be one of my questions, Nicole. I'm not mad at you. And thank you for all of your support. I know that this is a lot to coordinate. I think one of my suggestions would be though, so that we do define and make sure if we can have spaces where social distancing is available, masks are recommended, just to make sure that people feel comfortable. I think that's what I would want, is that community members feel comfortable coming into the space if they do really want to be there and show up. So they kind of know what the parameters are and that we've considered their safety. Yeah.
I can add a blurb in our materials that just says, masks recommended, or please feel comfortable to wear a mask. I'll look at what our city messaging is from our communications team right now, and then we'll add that to it just so people see that there too. It's a great suggestion.
Nicole, when are you looking to, because I know these are coming up. It's crazy to think that August 7th is just right there, but it is. That's wild. So what is your firm deadline for having all of these things lined up if commissioners have additional feedback or suggestions for places?
So I'm going to take all of your suggestions, and then I'm going to look at largest spaces and most central for the district. And then I'm going to start making calls tomorrow and narrow them down. And hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, or at least Monday, I will send you out what I've been able to book. And so that's how I do it. And with your guys' permission, I'll just book what's available and what makes sense, kind of based off of what's largest, what's most accessible and more in the central of the district. And I'll just kind of go down that priority list from there, put it together, send it out. And if there's any major red flags, you can let me know. Otherwise, we're going to get them up on the website and get them published next week, so that people have enough time to move their schedules around to be there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So what I'm hearing is, if you have any feedback, send it now. Calls are being made tomorrow, folks.
Yeah, we've got, and in the, Jatu, in the chat, we have YMCA for District 2. And we also have Phil Johnson ball fields, which would be District 4, right?
Angela?
Yes, so we never know what the weather's gonna be like, and it would be great to have it outside. But, so what about the schools? I mean, like in my district, we've got all these schools, and right in the Westmont Holly neighborhood, we've got several of them, plus the administration office. And I would think that it would be easy to be able to secure one of those sites, and that would give us more room than as opposed to the library, which is rather small of a space, smaller space. Just a question.
I can absolutely add the schools to the list. I will, I think it's 40, we're only going to be at each place for an hour. And if it's off hours, I think it's a $48.50 charge, I think. But I don't think that that is unreasonable. So I'll add the schools to my list, and there might be areas outside as well. I know some of the schools have covered areas. So we'll look at school district properties as well. Cascade might be a great location. Cascade High School, I think that's in a good location for what we're doing. So I'll add them. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, well, unless I'm mistaken, Nicole, is there anything else to discuss tonight?
No, so as soon as I get the map
Exciting.
from Bob, I'll have our communications team put together the final kind of flyer that we'll start putting out. It will also go out in Spanish and possibly other languages, although I will say we're having a hard time getting things interpreted due to staffing shortages and workforce shortages. But absolutely, it will be in both English and Spanish. And
I do have, can you please make sure, Nicole, that was one of my next questions for you before we close our time. So if you are having issues, I think that, I mean, we have a commission here at your disposal. If there are languages that are needed, if you can tell us in your follow-up email, and then if any of us do have contacts within our network, I have several Russian speakers within my network that would be happy to do this for the city. Just how that works and how we can get that accomplished. Because I do know, especially in my neighborhood, it's incredibly important to get this out in Russian. So any way that we can help, if you can let us know what support you don't have due to staffing or budget constraints, whatever the case may be, we're gonna back you up.
cool. I will
Thanks.
add that. And we had it in, I'll look through the languages. We had it in last year. The Everett Mall does not have a meeting room. Our neighborhoods have tried to meet, their Twin Creeks has tried to meet at Everett Mall before, and it hasn't been successful, but I can follow up and see if that's changed, because I think it's been 2 years since we looked into that. So minimum first draft will be in English and Spanish. And then I'll let you know what additional languages we are needing. And we will publish, and the comment for those. So if people can reach out to us in advance, if they need a translator, we can have one come to the meeting. If not, then if they want to provide their comments in writing in whatever language, we will have them translated, and I will provide it to the commission in a translated version. So anyone watching or listening, if this gets to someone whose English is not their first language, we accept comments in all languages, and it is on us to figure out how to get that translated. So please provide your comments however you need to.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nicole. Nathan, did you have your hand up?
I did, but she answered my question with
Okay,
the on-demand
perfect.
translation. So
Yay. I'm reading minds now.
There you go.
1 hour. That was fantastic.
I
don't
know,
have anything-
and we don't have to have a special meeting or anything like that. Thank you all for your hard work and being so prepared to have this discussion tonight.
Right, so the notes will come out as soon as we're done with them, and the flyer, your finalized locations. I think that's it.
Okay,
Do we,
excellent.
we have a next meeting in August of the committee, or would our next committee meeting like this be in September?
I don't have an August meeting scheduled except for our community comment meeting.
Community input, yeah.
I think that in my mind, we would meet in September, make the changes, finalize the map. And if we had to, we could meet one time in October. But the way that things are going, I'm fingers crossed that we can have a meeting in September, finalize, Bob can go back, make those changes that you agree on, and then we vote and we're complete. So hopefully 7 or 8 more meetings and we're done.
Yeah, we're putting that energy out there. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Night,
Have a wonderful
everybody.
weekend, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.